Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. It's been a long time. I did a Amazing Spider-Man updated collection video part 1 a while ago, and I was having trouble with the camera and my phone cutting off the recording. But now I have an iPhone 8 and extra space on my phone to hopefully hold enough for a 10-15 minute video, which this will probably end up being, but this is my second half of my key issue collection, and we're starting quite a bit away from my ending on the last video, which was issue 101, the first appearance of Morbius. And this is the bulk of my key Spider-Man books, which I know is a little crazy to say given we're starting at issue 51 here, but I'm looking at the stack of books next to me and I have quite a bit to show off and tell you guys about. So here we are, starting off with the wonderful artwork of John Romita once again, John Romita Sr., and the second appearance of the Kingpin, a wonderful, wonderful cover with Kingpin and his henchmen surrounding Spider-Man, a crumpled lump on the ground. Pretty nice issue, pretty good condition, not great, lower mid-grade I'd say, but a nice book, and it was actually a throw-in in an auction with this next book, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 50. I saw everyone on their collections showing this book off. Everyone seemed to have it but me, and of course this is the first appearance of Kingpin. It's not in the best of shape. The centerfold is detached, which was not in the listing, but I got some money off of it for that. I believe it was around 50 bucks for the two books. But at the very least, I'm really, really glad to have this beautiful artwork, very iconic cover, which you may know was, as I said, first appearance of Kingpin. Just another reason as to why John Romita really is the Spider-Man artist. Doesn't really get better than this. Alright, moving right along, we have issue number 46, which is the first appearance of the Shocker. Growing up with the 90s cartoons, I loved the Shocker, especially when I think of the 90s show, what I think of is the Venom episodes. And of course Shocker was hired to get the photos that Eddie Brock had taken, and Spider-Man with the Black Symbiote almost killed him. But growing up, I always loved the design of him. I actually had my dad draw a Shocker illustration out of a encyclopedia, and I've just always loved the design. I've loved him. The video games I played had Shocker in them, so it was only right that I got his first appearance, so very glad to have it. Again, something you'll notice with a lot of these books, lower mid-grade, but as We Love Comics likes to say, low grade is better than no grade, and I'm not going to disagree with him there. Moving right along, keeping up with that same trend, is a low mid-grade of, well, I'd say a little bit more low grade than mid-grade, issue of 45, the third appearance of the Lizard, which is part 2 of a two-part story. Part 1 is actually right here, issue 44, the second appearance of the Lizard. As you can tell, massive crease down the middle of it, and the Lizard name has been colored in green, which I kind of thought was normal until I looked at it closer and realized that someone had colored that in. Honestly, kind of like it more that way, but anyway, good cover, very much low grade, but you know, it is what it is. I'm glad to have it, and especially with these second and third appearances being parts of stories, 2 parts and 3 parts, like Doc Ock, Morbius. You know, I like to have both parts of the story, so I can, when I read it, I can actually have a cohesive story with it. So moving right along, we have issue number 43, a really, really nice condition book, and much like the Kingpin ones, issues 50 and 51, this was part of a lot of 2 books. We'll get to the other one in a second here, but this one is just in gorgeous shape. This is definitely a high grade book, easily an 8.85. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And I think it was $44 for this one and the next book I'm going to show you. And this book, being the origin and second appearance of the Rhino, and in this nicest shape, I couldn't turn it down. I mean, just a classic image of Spider-Man grabbing Rhino by the horns, and Rhino just flinging him around. Love this cover. Love it. Now, moving on to the other book I was saying, I was talking about earlier. Issue number 41, the first appearance of Rhino. Definitely lower grade, but I mean, first appearance of Rhino, and like I said, in a lot with the other book, the issue 43, the origin of Rhino, and in that higher shape, I couldn't turn it down for like $40. Again, it was an auction, I ended up winning it, but I just love this cover of Rhino just punching through a wall with Spider-Man on the ground in the background, looking like they had just been in a fight and Spider-Man lost, and just putting his hand out in the classic, you know, no, stop, I can't let you escape kind of a pose. And Rhino just breaking out, and love this cover. Again, John Romita is just brilliant. Wonderful, wonderful artwork. Now moving on, the next book is one of John Romita's firsts, his actual second book, to be specific. Issue 40, The Origin of the Green Goblin, which, again, very special to me, given, like I said, I grew up with a 90s show, and one of my favorite episodes was the Green Goblin Origin episode, and panel for panel, just about, and I love it. It takes me back to when I was watching that show, and I, you know, a little, you know, I would say more mid-grade this time than low-grade, but beautiful, beautiful artwork. I mean, you can't argue with that. So, yeah, I mean, just beautiful glider in the background, Green Goblin just defeated in the foreground, Spider-Man over top of him, of course, with the classic webs under his arms, which I was very happy to see brought back for the more recent Spider-Man films. It's just always something I really, really liked and wish they used more, and wasn't too happy when they got rid of them. But now I'm just off on a tangent. Moving on, the issue just before it, coming in from the left this time, for no reason really. Issue number 39, really nice shape. Of course, this is the first time that the Spider-Man and Green Goblin find out who they are, but it's also the first time that the reader finds out who Green Goblin is. Before this, the reader did not know that the Green Goblin was really Norman Osborn. I mean, of course, beforehand, sorry, ignore the ripples, those are just in the bag, not on the comic. But before this, the reader had no idea who the Green Goblin was, up until this very issue. Of course, we knew who Spider-Man was, and that was only a surprise to his foe, who was furious that his nemesis was a child, as he put it. But just, I mean, classic artwork that's been recreated numerous times in different media, whether it be cover swipes, statues, figures, what have you. It's just classic. And for this to be John Romita's first issue on Spider-Man is incredible. Now, moving right along from that, believe it or not, that is not even halfway done. We have issue number 30. This was one I got when I was a kid. Believe it or not, when I was a kid, these early Silver Age issues were not nearly as expensive as they are now, and were pretty easy to find for the $20 to $30 mark. And this is one of them. First appearance of the Cat. Minor villain. And when I was a kid and I saw, the first appearance of the Cat, I thought it was talking about Black Cat, because I didn't know there was another cat in the comics. But this is just a cat burglar, similar in a way to Black Cat, but definitely not Black Cat. And as you can probably tell, the bottom right hand is missing the piece of the cover, which is a shame. But I mean, I think this was around $25 when I was 6, so 13, 14 years ago now. Not bad. I will definitely take it. I mean, a lot of these older issues, when I go back and think about them, I think they were in a lot worse shape than they actually were, and some of them I think they're in a lot better shape. Now, going to a more recent find, I actually got this, believe it or not, when I was in Hawaii, along with another book you will see coming up in a few issues. Yeah, and not the next one, but the one after next. This, of course, is the second appearance of the Scorpion, my favorite. My personal, well, he was my favorite when I was a kid, my favorite Spider-Man villain. Now my favorite is Hobgoblin. It was Scorpion, then Green Goblin for a long time, and then when I realized how Hobgoblin was just insane for the fact of being insane and didn't need chemicals to blow up in his face to become that way, you know, I like him a little bit more than the Green Goblin now. But beautiful condition book. I mean, just gorgeous. I think this book was around $45, which not bad at all for issue 29 of The Amazing Spider-Man. I was really surprised when I went to Hawaii. They had a lot of really, really good books for great prices, and I couldn't turn this one down. Just a beautiful, beautiful book, and I actually had the one I will show you in just a little bit first. So you'll see why I couldn't turn this one down. Alrighty, moving right along. Another one I had when I was a kid, issue 27, the 5th appearance of Green Goblin. I don't know at what point appearances stop becoming important, but this is the 5th appearance, and if that wasn't good enough, fun fact, this is also the last time that Steve Ditko draws the Green Goblin. Now, being that I was really young, this is one of the books I was saying that I thought it was in a lot better shape, and it's really in horrible shape. I mean, not horrible shape, I mean, it's still readable, but there's extra staples here and here. I don't know if the edges started to, or the spine started to split, so they stapled it, but yeah, the spine is all kinds of nastiness, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I got it when I was like 8, so I can't be too upset. 5th appearance of Green Goblin, and believe it or not, when I bought it, that was actually the selling point. They had that on a sticker on the cover, 5th appearance of Green Goblin. I think it's a little bit cooler that it was the last time that Steve Ditko drew Green Goblin, but hey, that's just me. So, moving right along, the book I mentioned to earlier, which the more, I don't want to say intelligent, because that might be insulting, the more knowledgeable of you who may have picked on my hints earlier might have realized I was talking about Amazing Spider-Man number 20. Yeah, this was the book I got a little bit earlier in Hawaii, actually just the store prior. This was actually CGC'd as a 3.0. Got it for $120 in Hawaii, and like I said, given the fact that I love Scorpion and I've wanted this book for literally years now, and it seems to be fluctuating a little bit, but 120 seemed like a pretty good deal. As you can tell, there's some pretty big staining in this area here, which is a shame, but I mean, it's in one piece. There's the spine's not horrible. It's actually pretty good. The corners are nice, the inside is nice, so I couldn't exactly turn it down. Moving right along, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 17, and believe it or not, we're probably just now about halfway done with this stack for this video. So buckle in, it's about to get good if it hasn't already, which in my opinion, my favorite Spider-Man books are the first 20, because that's when it was first appearance after first appearance after first appearance, and solid foe, like big time Spider-Man villain after big time Spider-Man villain appearance, and it's just a really exciting time. And this one being number 17, not the first appearance of Green Goblin, but it is the second. This was another book I got when I was a kid, and I don't know if the condition got worse and how I stored it, or if it actually looked like this, but I specifically remember when I was a kid assigning this a very fine grade. So I remember looking in my Overstreet price guide and going, yep, this is a very fine. The eagle-eyed of you may notice that it is not even remotely near a very fine. but it is passable. There's actually a spine split running from about here all the way up, which sucks, for the lack of a better term. But this is also the first appearance of the glider and the pumpkin bombs. And, of course, an early Human Torch crossover with Spider-Man. So, all kinds of Marvel goodness on this one. Again, issue 17, Steve Ditko. Awesome. Only one that could trump Ditko, Romita. It was an incredible time to be a comic book fan, I'm going to be honest with you. Alright, moving on. And I sound like I'm saying that from experience. Not that I would know. I'm not nearly that old. Neither is my dad. So, moving on. Okay, issue number 16. Fun fact, this is the only crossover that the yellow costume Daredevil made before he got his red costume, which I don't think enough people know. I think that's really, really cool. I mean, not enough people really know that Daredevil had a yellow suit. Cue the comments to say, I knew he had a yellow suit. Good for you, I guess. Which I'll actually make another collection video, but if you have seen my older ones, you've seen that I actually have issues 2 through 6 and 7 where he gets the red costume. So I'm only missing now one issue where he had the yellow suit, and that is issue number 1 of Daredevil, which people are going to have to start to hate Daredevil to be able to afford that book, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. But this is also the second appearance of the Ringmaster, a minor villain who made his first appearance in a Hulk annual issue. I mean, he is what he is. It was a pretty cool issue. He caused Spider-Man and Daredevil to fight, which was really cool. Spider-Man making quip after quip in this one against Daredevil. It was a fun issue. I'll put it that way. Again, not in the best of shape, but low grade's better than no grade. So, moving on to one of my prized possessions, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 14. Of course, this is the first appearance of the Green Goblin. The only real condition issue with it is, sadly, this corner here-ish over is very, very brittle. I mean, like, if you bend it, it's going to break. It's going to snap that part of the page off, which was not in the listing, and in the listing the cover was actually complete. There wasn't any pieces missing, but I mean, it is what it is. It's an Amazing Spider-Man number 14. I'm not going to complain, and we only got it for around 400, I think. So for a complete issue, cover and everything, I mean, I'm not going to get too mad. Of course, the colors aren't super vibrant, but hey, I'm going to get what I can get. So, I mean, most people would consider it fortunate to be able to just hold one. So for me to be able to own one, I'm not going to complain. Moving right along, we have issue number 13. You may recognize this guy from the latest Spider-Man movie. Yep, this is the first appearance of Mysterio. Again, keeping with the theme of not knowing things or things not being put into listings, this book actually has the cover detached, which was not in the listing. I ended up getting, I think, I won this for 113. No. Yeah, around 110. Because there was another book I won, X-Men. Well, I'm not going to spoil it. Well, actually, I sold it, so it's X-Men number 3. I bought for 113, and keeping with it, that had an issue with it that wasn't in the listing either. But this one, the cover's detached, which sucks. But I got about 15-20 bucks off of it. He didn't want to give too much because it was a good price already, but I was able to squeeze something out of him. But of course, first appearance and origin of Mysterio, another villain I loved when I was a kid. Of course, when I was a kid, I had a pop-up book that had all of the Spider-Man villains in it, well, the main ones, and actually had their origins in it, which were literally panel for panel their origins. So being able to go back into this issue and see the origin in the original issue is just, it's awesome. And like I said, I love Mysterio, always have. So to be able to have this is just incredible. So moving right along, we have issue number 12. This one I actually got at a local comic store for $40. It's not in the greatest of shape. There's a spine split going from there down, and it has, I don't know if that's a stain or what, but it's something. It's a black mark, but not in the best of shape. But it's the third appearance of Dr. Octopus, and as I mentioned earlier, the second part in a story of Dr. Octopus coming back. A whole sort of love triangle with Betty Brant, who many people, again, don't know was actually Spider-Man's first love. Not Mary Jane, not Gwen Stacy, it was Betty Brant. So, yeah, fun little issue. If you ever get to read it in original format, reissue, it's a fun book. And going to the first part of it, issue number 11, the second appearance of Dr. Octopus. Incredible condition. There's just a few spine ticks on it, but otherwise it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I love this of Doc Ock just pinning Spider-Man down. Because at the time, and I mean even to this day, Doc Ock was probably the most formidable foe for Spider-Man. And it's, of course, always interesting to see Doc Ock's original get-up of the green sweater and the purple pants, as opposed to the very comic booky look he had in the later issues of the like yellow and green jumpsuit. But yeah, I mean, he literally just looks like your typical, like, what you think of when you think of a nerdy scientist with 4 robot arms on him. So yeah, moving right along. So this video doesn't get to be too long because we only have a few books left. We're rounding it up because of course we are. We just showed issue 11. There's only so many more to show. And I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. I don't have issue Amazing Fantasy 15 or issue number 1. So there's only so many more I can show. But this, of course, issue number 9. I mean, just so I don't start to sound like a broken record, just about all of these are my, like, holy grail books that I've wanted for over a decade. So this, of course, first appearance and origin of Electro, and a much better origin than was given to him in the Ultimate Universe and therefore the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Of course, the jumpsuit, I mean, I would say it's ridiculous, and it is, but it's classic. I mean, honestly, that's Electro. So, I love this cover of Electro just stealing money and Spider-Man just coming up behind him and just touching him. And that's all that has to happen for Spider-Man to get knocked out. And, of course, this may have been the Silver Age, but this actually is in the issue. This very little interaction, the first time Spider-Man meets him. Again, awesome read. I love it. And keeping with the tone of a villain who is not in any way, shape, or form a pity party, where he is a jerk before he becomes a supervillain, and he's a jerk afterwards. So yeah, I just love this book, and it's in really nice shape too. I mean, it's a good solid mid-grade, and I'm just so happy to have this. I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, moving right along. A book I recently purchased. Well, I didn't purchase it, I traded for it. But Amazing Spider-Man number 8, the first appearance of, wait for it, the Living Brain. I'm sure you already knew that, but I figured I'd let you know the classic Living Brain villain first appeared in issue number 8 here. It's actually a very odd issue because it's the one issue out of the first 10 issues that in some way, shape, or form did not have a main big villain in it. I mean, of course, you have the first fight as well between Peter Parker and Flash Thompson. But, I mean, the Living Brain, I mean, it's not the only not huge villain. We did have the Enforcers in issue 10, but, I mean, even in the animated series, they became classic villains for some reason. Like, if you know the Spectacular Spider-Man series, the Enforcers became like Rhino, Sandman, Shocker, and all that. But the Living Brain, nothing. This isn't a very low grade, but I mean, it's issue 8, and with the prior to 10 issues, these single digits, I'm happy to get them in any grade. And this definitely is not the worst shape I have. Moving right along, speaking of the devil, Amazing Spider-Man number 7, with the top ripped off. Now, here comes the learning section. I wanted to know why the top would have possibly been ripped off. Apparently, in the 60s, comic books that did not sell, they were not just stuck with. They could actually send them back and get their money back. Now, to save on shipping costs, they wouldn't ship the whole book. All they had to do was rip the cover off, or the top of the cover off, as you see here, with the issue number and the series and the price, and they would get refunded their money. So clearly that's what happened here. Sadly, it looks like when they tried to do that, they ripped about 2 or 3 pages in too, and those pages had tape at one point. Now it's just residue. So that dark section you see right there, that's not tape, that's just residue. One of the things I find is a lot of times these old books that had tape on them at one point, and a lot of times the tape just falls right off. It doesn't, believe it or not, 50 to 60-year-old tape isn't necessarily sticky anymore. But moving right on along to a much better shape issue, we have issue number 6. This is the first appearance of the Lizard and Origin, I believe. Just classic cover. I love this cover. In my opinion, this is, I don't want to say my favorite because there's so many there's so many covers I love, but this is definitely one of my favorite Spider-Man covers, period, to be honest. And I just love this original design for the Lizard. He definitely does not look like this anymore, but I don't know, there's something about it that I just really like. And of course, this is the typical like Amazing Spider-Man 1 movie story where he's trying to turn all of mankind into lizards, which, I mean, if you really think about it, is kind of his scheme every time. But just awesome cover. One of my favorite cover drawings of Spider-Man that Ditko did. But beautiful shape. Now, you wouldn't be able to tell it looking at the cover and the beautiful spine and the fact that there's literally no tick marks on it. Well, there's like 2, but the cover is actually detached, which I found incredible how, because most of the times these old books that have the cover detached have been beat to hell, but this one is in gorgeous shape and somehow the cover is detached. No idea how, but it is. Other than that, it's in gorgeous shape. I'm kind of glad that the cover's detached because I don't think if it wasn't, I would be able to have gotten it for as cheap as I did. But most of these early issues, I only bought for around $120. I think the most expensive was probably Amazing. Well, this next one I'm going to show you, which was a little over 200. But most of these, especially these early Silver Age Spider-Man books in lower grade, if you're patient, you can find them for a great deal. So, moving right along to that next issue, Amazing Spider-Man number 4, the first appearance of Betty Brant and Sandman. I mean, it's a gorgeous book. It's in relatively nice shape. I mean, there's some ink stains here, and of course there's this wonderful Marvel chipping all the way down the side, and someone wrote 20 cents right there. But other than that, I mean, it's a gorgeous book. I mean, everything's intact, nothing's detached, story's all there. It's a beautiful book. Great classic story. Back when Marvel Comics were a pick up, read it, and you have an entire story in your hands, kind of a comic book. So lucky to have it, honestly. I can't say that enough. All these books, I'm just so lucky to have. So moving right along,